Mark 10:6. Again, Jesus said, but at the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. So at the onset, when there was nothing, and then there was something, that very beginning, very short period of time, because literally and actually, properly interpreted, it's 6 literal 24-hour days. That would be the beginning. When men didn't exist, all of a sudden, on the sixth day, male and female existed. And everything before that and everything thereafter. Everything was created all at once in those 6 days, and God rested the seventh day. It can't be any clearer. Creation. The word creation here must refer to that which was created rather than the process of the 6 days of creation as detailed in Genesis chapter 1. It gave you the beginning of the creation and broke it down into 6 literal 24-hour days, and then it rested. God rested from that. Otherwise, at the beginning of creation, those words would teach that man's body, soul, and spirit were created at the beginning of the 6-day creation process on day 1, or 2 conflicting with the Genesis account of man's creation on day 6. So we have that overall 6-day period, which is broken down into sequence, time sequence. So at the beginning of creation refers to the beginning, the 6-day period when God created his creation, i.e. when he created all things. Thereafter he rested. Everything else procreates. But everything that was created at that beginning time, there was nothing new thereafter. Matter of fact, we have a declining number of species and a limited, more and more limited lifespan of all those species, especially man and woman. So at the beginning, man and woman were created, not billions of years of evolution later, or even hundreds of years, so we can't read that into it. It told us that the length, 6 literal 24 days, and then we're done. Dr. Carly Baugh states, this verse, Mark 10:6, says a number of things to us. First of all, it says that the universe is not 16.5 billion years old, or older or younger. It says that the earth is not 4.5 billion years old. From the beginning of creation, we can then point back to the history of man. That beginning period of time, 6 24-hour days. Man came on the stage fully operational, didn't evolve, with the ability to accomplish all that God designed for him to accomplish. Matter of fact, man can't accomplish as much. From the beginning of creation, we can trace the history of man. So the universe is not billions of years old, nor even millions, just thousands. Wow. Let's think of this. Even though we've created many things like electronic devices and everything else, none of it is beyond the capacity of Adam and Eve and their progeny. So the universe is not billions of years old, nor even millions. Matter of fact, the Adam and Eve probably didn't need those devices. Their skill set was like a computer brain. They could memorize the animals and not need an instrument to assist us in adding and subtracting. So Dr. Baugh says, man and woman were made on the 6th day of creation. It was not until after the 6th day that the Bible says it is finished. It is finished. That means done deal. There's no more creation. Now we're just going to expand what has already been created. Genesis 2:1-2. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the 7th day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the 7th day, he rested from all his work. We're done, right? Dr. Carl Baugh goes on to say, so the entire creation was made in a progressive form in a matter of 6 days. Yet the time scale for the physical 6-day creation is described as the beginning. Because if you keep reading, see if you cherry pick a verse and then don't pay attention to the rest of the words that completes that context, you're destroying the context of the Bible and you're rewriting it yourself. I don't think you ought to do that. So the universe is not billions of years old, nor even millions, only thousands of years old. We looked at the gaps in the generation in Genesis accounts of mankind's birth rates and genealogies. We find there are no gaps. It's about 4,000 years. Henry Moore says, all actual historical records agree in substance with the Bible's short chronology. A longer chronology, which of course is needed to support the modern dogma of evolution, must be based on uniformitarian extrapolation. The belief, this is defined as the belief that physical processes have always functioned in the past essentially as they can be observed today at present. Not so. What about not just uniformitarian, things are always the way they are, but we have complete, overwhelming worldwide flood, catastrophic events. Now they have to admit in evolution that they can't explain it through this uniformitarian process because some things just don't explain it that way. Something all of a sudden happened, like earthquakes, volcanoes, local and worldwide floods, and so on. So the belief that physical processes have always functioned in the past, essentially as they can be observed today, is false. So uniformitarian extrapolation of certain present physical processes is not actually explained scientifically. It should be recognized, however, that all such calculations necessarily must be based on a number of unproved and, as a matter of fact, untestable assumptions, because science requires observation, repeatability, falsifiability. We haven't observed it. We can't see it repeat itself again and again and again, and we have no way of putting a control in the experiment to see if something else doesn't work better. So furthermore, there are many physical processes which, even with these uniformitarian assumptions, can be shown to agree in order of magnitude with the short biblical chronology, and only a few which can be made to give chronology long enough to support the evolutionary idea. Most of the time, almost all the time, I've never seen anything that's unbiblical in its explanation. A lot of times the evolutionists will completely ignore what the Bible has to say and say, this is more plausible with the evolutionary idea. The Bible is religion, so we don't pay any attention to it. That's not good science. Assuming that things have remained relatively the same throughout the ages, which one can observe in the world around us, which is just not the case, then maybe, but not the case, evolution has some plausibility, but it doesn't. The weight of the scientific data is heavily on the side of a recent creation and a chronology of history in agreement with the biblical record, because catastrophic events, for example, a worldwide flood, would change the earth completely and make the fossil record just as it appears, which is varied all around the world depending upon what it was there in the waves that clashed together because of the worldwide flood. That would instantly occur. With such facts in mind, there is no good reason not to accept the simple, literal biblical chronology. This is not necessarily Ussher's chronology, which we can go on, but it's close to it. But it will be of the same general magnitude, since Ussher did base his calculations on the biblical data. The best known chronological system based on the biblical data is that of Archbishop James Ussher, 1581 to 1656, who computed the date of creation as 4004 BC. There are many uncertainties in such calculations. In addition to Ussher's date of 4004 BC for the creation, many other dates have been computed, some of which are as follows, all in years BC. Jewish, 3760, Septuagint, 5270, Josephus, 5555, Kepler, Melanchthon, Luther, Lightfoot, Hales, Playfair, Lippmann, and others. You notice there are only four figures. 4, 3, 3900 to maybe 5555, 6,000. And there are different things that are not quite precise in the calendar years since the changeover of the Gregorian calendar. In addition, all of the above calculations assume the completeness of the genealogies in Genesis 5 and 11, which they seem to be very plausible. Many writers have argued that one or more gaps of unknown magnitude may be assumed in these lists, especially in Genesis 11. In any case, oops, another demon in my... Go back and get it. In any case, they cannot be stretched sufficiently to accommodate modern evolutionary chronology, which is millions of years, which places the origin of modern man at about 3 million BC, rather than totaling more than about 5,000 years in these chapters, without rendering the record irrelevant and absurd. When you get to absurdity, it's time to give up and think of something different. Consequently, the Bible will not support a date for the creation of man earlier than about 10,000 BC. Okay, point 8. Well spoken there. Point 8. God said it was very good, not ruined or chaotic. So you have a lot of ruined stuff in order for Earth to be completely needing a transformation. So you can't try to marry the Bible with that either. Better just stick with the Bible says and ignore non-scientific data. God had now completed his work, Henry Morris says, but before settling down to rest in contemplation of what he had produced, as it were, seventh day, 7 24-hour days, he first surveyed it all and pronounced the whole creation to be very good. 6 times before, he had seen that what he had made was good. But now that it was complete, and with every part in perfect harmony with every other part, all perfectly formed and with an abundance of inhabitants, he saw, and with great joy, that it was all literally exceedingly good. On each previous day, the account had concluded by saying, literally, the evening and the morning were a 5th day, and so on. That's a literal 24-hour day, right? But now it says the evening and the morning were the 6th day, the definite article occurring for the first time in this formula, thus also stressing the completion of the work. This one verse is itself sufficient to refute any theory which tries to accommodate the geological ages concept in the Genesis record of creation. Everything in the universe, the next verse specifically includes all the hosts of heaven in its scope, all the stars and the moons and comets and so on, was still at this time exceedingly good in God's own omniscient judgment. There could have been nothing that was not good in all creation. No struggle for existence, no disease, no pollution, no physical calamities, no earthquakes, no floods, no imbalance or lack of harmony, no disorder, no sin, and above all, no death. And above all, no death. Shall I say it again? Above all, no death. Even Satan was still good at this point. His rebellion and fall must have come later. By the way, I mentioned comets. Comets are only about 10,000 years old or less. So how come they still exist if the Earth is billions of years old? Well, because comets disintegrate in less than 10,000 years. They've been known to do that, and we've been able to measure that. Fossils, of course, speak of death, often of violent and sudden death. They also speak of disease and injuries, or of storms and convulsions. In short, of a world like the present world. The whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together. Romans 8:22. There you go. Since death only entered into the world when sin came in through man, Romans 5:12, and since the whole creation was very good before man sinned, it is as obvious as anything could be that the fossil record now found in the sedimentary rocks of the earth's crust could only have been formed sometime after man sinned. What do you think? Worldwide flood, you think? Everybody drowned, you think? The fossils could not have been deposited either before the 6 days of creation, as in the gap theory, or during the 6 days of creation, as according to the progressive creation day-age type of theory. How could God have possibly looked upon a world of struggle and travail and looked into the rocks to see the remains of billions of dead animals as well as human-like creatures, and then describe it as all exceedingly good? He needs some glasses there. Such a suggestion, in effect, makes God out to be a monster, not the God of all grace, who cares for every sparrow, not the God of love and mercy, therefore too kind to create a world by such a process as suggested in the geological age concept. The God of perfect wisdom, therefore certainly able to devise a better way than that. The God of omnipotence, thus fully able to create by such a better way. And the God of infinite order, not the author of confusion and of wasteful inefficiency, which is implied if the fossil record is indeed a record of pre-human earth history as revealed in the Bible. The cataclysmic events of the great flood in the days of Noah. There you go. They're quite sufficient to account for all the phenomena of the sedimentary rocks in the fossil record. All the time of man's creation, however, the whole universe was a beautiful, perfect creation, the finest that the mind and heart of God himself could devise for man. Just think about that. Worldwide flood. We've had local floods like the one up in Northern California a number of years ago that created a mini Grand Canyon in a matter of 9 hours. So we have a whole worldwide flood of huge proportions, miles high waves, huge amounts of water slamming into each other with sedimentary stuff that it's torn away from the surface of the earth. Then you're going to deposit sedimentary fossils and rock all together, instant formation of fossils, and we have exactly that record. And it's never uniform or consistent. Throughout the whole world, try to show me the perfect sedimentary corroboration all the way from North to South Pole. Not going to happen. It's always different. The words created formless and void when taken into context do not support a gap theory. Next time.